It's my pleasure and honor and kavod and all other nice words to introduce our speaker, Reb Shulem Landau. I believe that Reb Shulem is the mechanech of our generation. That's why I sent my 3 boys, and I would have sent my 1 girl to the yeshiva. And I always say that really Mindy was raised by you, because of the 3 boys around. What can I say? Shulem is exactly the gematria Chanoich Lenar. Chanoich Lenar is exactly what Reb Shulem is all about. Every child needs their own chinuch. Whether it's a kid in yeshiva, it's a kid in this school, in that school. And the Rebbe, the Rosh Hashiva, Reb Shulem has that unbelievable ability to get into the mind of every single child. When it comes to our children, our kids, Reb Shulem has been with us from the beginning as a tremendous CHIZUK for me personally. And I'm thinking back when parents started coming to me, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting with Tzebrachana Elterim, and I hardly had any experience, and I reached for the bat phone. I reached for the red phone, the emergency. I said, Reb Shulem, can you come? About a half an hour later, about 1:30, Rebbetzin Esti came, Shulem, the Shiva came in. I remember when you opened up the doors in Home Sweet Home, with your Shtamel and your Bekesha, I felt like the room became flooded with light, the room became flooded with hope, and you helped save those people and so many other people that you give constant chizuk to. So it's a big kavod for us to ask you to say a few words.
Agit Kvittel, Agit Yontef, es is lechtige Tag. If you say Karbunas every day, by the Pasha from Toide, we see that Kudashim, Laila Hoylech Acher Hayom. So today was Yontef, we all sang Hallel. We're sitting here tonight by another Siddur Chanukah. And the whole Yontef Chanukah, wie Tzaddikim, wie the Surim Zugen, is basically one underlying thing in ganz Yontef Chanukah. We say v'ala nisim v'acha kach bui b'nechu l'dvir b'sechu. What do you mean v'acha kach bui b'nechu l'dvir b'sechu? V'acha kach bui. Why do we have to put in that word b'nechu? Which children are we talking about? Who are we personifying as b'nechu? The ones that for 60 or 90 years it's chalikadayis or misyavnim, decided to hang out in the gyms, decided to hang out in the clubs, decided to go to the academies and studir and throw away every bit of Masorah that the Zaydis and the Babas had. They were the cause for the desecration of the Beis Hamikdash. They were the cause for the fall of Klal Yisrael in that Kifa. And then we turn around, and all of Klal Yisrael says, "Va'acha kach bui b'nechu." You know which children? Those monsters, those rats, those kids that caused us so much agony. Favus, very simple, very, very simple. A Yiddish neshama, you can never place a dollar value to a Yiddish neshama. And as far gone as a Yiddish neshama may seem that he's far gone, you know, we're just a blip on the radar screen, and what we are going through in our lives, in the Eibishter's Welt, in the Welt von der Brie, it's mamash, it's minuscule. For us, it's endless. For us, it's take ke'elef shunem b'neicho ki yom echad. But Be'emes is, you know, if the Eibishter gives us all arichas yuma v'shunem, and the Eibishter gives us geduld and patience and sanity, we end up seeing nachas most of the times down the line. And that's what Chazal are telling us in the Tefillah of Chanukah. You know what the big Nes Chanukah was? About it was a Pach Shemen, and about it that we were metad the Beis Hamikdash. But va'acha kach bui b'nechu, they were, the title b'nechu was bestowed on them again. And that's a chizuk for all of us. That's something that we have to take along with us. And Chanukah is one of these Yomim Tovim that we don't make Havdullah. Chanukah and Purim, we don't make Havdullah. Why? Because we can't part with it. We can't say, okay, it's Matzah Chanukah. This is something that we have to take along with us for the duration of the year, our lives. That we have to know that kinderlich beinkach beinkach kriyem bunim. There was one of the tzaddikim that lived in Eretz Yisrael with about 50 years ago, a little more, 60 years ago. He was called the Satana, the Heilige Satana. He was the only Einikel from Heilige Rizhiner that ever made it to Eretz Yisrael. And just to give you an asug who we're talking about, Belzeruv Rabarla, from the Bissel was gehört from Yidden, the little that I read about him, and stories that I heard from my Zayde, from my Mimes, from my Shpucha, Mamash Mofsemaish, a Kedosh Yisrael called no one the Rebbe, Chitz the Satana. The Satana was his Rebbe. He said, "Was macht the Rebbe? Let's go visit the Rebbe." That gives you an asug who we're talking about. So he lived in Tel Aviv. Need I tell you what Tel Aviv looks like? If you're not sure, ask your kids. But he lived in Tel Aviv, and every day he'd go for a walk. A person, he can't feel a good be Yisrael. You need to do exercise. And he would walk the streets of Tel Aviv, and then he would sit down on the bench, on the street. In Tel Aviv, the comings and the goings and the happenings, even then. So somebody once asked him, he says, "Rebbe," he said, don't you find Tel Aviv some disturbing to you? Don't you find Tel Aviv something that stares you in Avdas Hashem? Don't you find sitting in Tel Aviv as something that affects you in Shemayim? How do you sit in Tel Aviv on the streets and just staring and watching what's going on day in, day out? So he looked up at that person, he says, Leka mida de la remiza b'iraisa. There's nothing that isn't merimaz in the Torah. And the Torah doesn't tell us anything that's not apropos till the end of days. Whatever the Torah tells us is apropos for all of us, at kaitz hayumim. He says, Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the manig of Klal Yisrael, and it's Sof Yumav, it's the end of his days, it's inside the Devurim, it's the last month of his life, and he's talking to Klal Yisrael, and in Parshas Devurim there's a pusik, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Eichu esa levadi terchachem emasachem. How can I carry your terchachem and your masachem? So Rashi says, what is terchachem? Melamed shahoyi Yisrael terchunim. Yidden were troublesome people. They were troublesome people. Troublesome doesn't mean something bothers me. Troublesome means I'm a troubled person. Ich bin nicht ganz zufriedener Mensch. I don't have a simchas achayim. I don't feel good about myself. I'm a troublesome person. Shehoyi Yisrael terchunim. Imasachem. Melamed shehoyu apikorsim. This is Rashi. That Klaisa was apikorsim. I mean, you can't get on a report card or on a te'ida a nice title from Rabbi Shal Yisrael. There, Mr. So-and-so, I want you to know you should be very proud about your child. Your child has reached a milestone and has joined the ranks of the Terchachem and Masachem. And he's talking about Klal Yisrael. And the Torah goes vata. Moshe Rabbeinu zog vata. V'rivchem, they were fighting side. Whatever happened, if you said one thing, he said another thing. Then the Torah says, Moshe says, okay, so what are we going to do with all these children? What are we going to do with all these, these chushe v'bucherim, huvi lechem anushim chachumim in avoinim v'yedinim shiftaychem. Bring me people, intellect people, Chachumim, people that are intellect. In Nevoinim, Chazal tell us that he's a Maiven Duva Metoch Duva. And Rasha goes on to say, the mushal that Rasha says, Rasha talks about a banker. If business is slow and no one is walking into the bank, he's going to go out and he's going to drum up business. And Chazal tell us, Maiven Duva Metoch Duva, if I see this, I understand it's not really what I'm seeing. There's something underlining there. And Moshe goes on to say, I'm going to put you as the Rishaychem L'Shavtaychem. What is Moshe telling us here? What is the Torah telling us here? This is Stam Sapira Masses. Moshe is telling us, Tatas and Mamas, there's going to be a time in Klal Yisrael when your children are going to be troublesome children. Your children are going to be apikorsim. Push it and grud. Rasha is the Rebbe. Aina mikri yoytze medei pshitoi. So what's the Eitze? What do? We're going to throw them out? We're going to throw them under the bus? We're going to disown them? No. Huvi lechem anushim chachumim min avoinim. Those of you that are sitting here are the ones that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling you, you are the anushim chachumim, you are the intellect in avoinim, and you are the ones that are maiven duva betoch duva. When you see a child in pain, you know there's more to what the eye sees. There's something underlying there. There's something bothering him. How do I deal with it? And this is the brucha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us before his estalkis. Moshe Rabbeinu told us, but you are going to have the koyach. So the Hasatana turns to that Yid, and he says this, and he tells him, this is where Moshe Rabbeinu wanted Manhiga Yisrael to sit. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted me to see the troublesome people. He wants me to see the apikorsim, and he wants me to see what can I do with them and for them. And I should be a nuvoin. I should understand that when I see someone being Machal Shabbos, he's not being Machal Shabbos weil vil Machal Shabbos an. He's not being Machal Shabbos because he wants to dafke be moired and kaviyuchel, or he mamish wants to give Yagmas Nefesh. Deep down they don't want to give parents Yagmas Nefesh. This is the way they scream out for help. This is the way they are screaming and saying, help me, I need help. Ich bin Machal Shabbos, ich leik nicht kan tefilin. Whatever we do, there's more to it. And the raya is, because when we speak to them on an oifen, on the language that they understand, eventually we get to them. Rabbi say, you are the anushim chachumim and avoinim. And Moshe Rabbeinu is holding your hand. I don't say this lightly, as I shtayt. Moshe Rabbeinu told the Eibishter, Mish'ani meskani nisker, wer mich gedenken? Who's going to remember me? Could you hear this? Groise Moshe was worried. Moshe was worried, who's going to remember me? So the Eibishter said, Chayechu, ich schwör dich, every year when maligned kisisu es roish, the parsha of the Shulem, you are going to be there in Besmedrish, and you are going to be zoike ves roisham. The shekel was a machzis a shekel. There is nothing more wholesome b'shefer than a broken heart. Every time we talk about our children's hearts that are shattered, every time that we speak to ourselves, we speak to the b'shefer, Moshe Rabbeinu is there, v'zoike ves roisham. He gives us the koyach. You know where Moshe Rabbeinu was buried? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't opt to be in the Chelkas Admoirim Rabunim with the Gedolei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I want to be buried with the Maisa Midbar. I want to be buried with the Zindika mention, with the people that was Nigza Mis on them, the ones that caused the Eibishter and the world the most grief. Mashayshisimayamasa. He says, you know why? Because I believe the day will come when even those Neshumas will return to some richtige Makar. This is what Moshe is telling us. Moshe is telling us, yes, there's nothing schwerer than a father and mother having to live through such a matzav in their life and see their children and see this is the dream, this is their hope. But Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, you should know you will, with chokhmah and binu. He's telling us exactly, If you could understand that there is more than what we see, you will imagine Shem be matzliach. You know, welche Mama, welche Tate doesn't take out a tillemel, sich auszugießen der Herz. So if we look was David HaMelech sagt, if we look in Kapitel Kif Aleph, David HaMelech tells us, Askilu b'derech tumim, musai tuvay eloi. You can touch it whatever way you want. You could say David was talking about his own children, musai tuvay eloi, when are you coming back home? You could say he was talking to the Bashefa, when am I going to have a shrus, a shchina? David HaMelech sagt, Es halach besom levuvi bekerev baisi. I will walk with a tamimus bekerev baisi. Now, tamimus, there's several taichin on tamimus. Atumim, atamim im tamimim is somebody who's freilich kan kashes. He just goes with the tamimus and he says, Bashefa, this is what you want from me? If this is my lot in life that you gave me, ich bin es makabel betamimus. Aber musai tuvay alai. Wenn it is geschehen. Wenn it is geschehen. So David HaMelech tells us, a Moridiki Yesoid, David HaMelech tells us that a Yid has to believe that everything in life has a cheshbon, and don't take it personally because it's not you. There's a bigger picture. I want to tell you a story from the Heiligen Reb Aaron Agudel from Karlin. Reb Aaron Agudel is the mechaber from Ka'echsoif. That's the niggin that we sing with Azaz Rakshas. When Reb Aaron Agudel passed away, he asked his Talmud, Reb Shlomo LeKarlina, to become Rebbe. And Reb Shlomo LeKarlina did not want to become Rebbe. He said he's not Rui, he's not befitting to take over his father, his Rebbe's position. And Reb Shlomo hat ugezukt. So the story goes as follows, that Reb Aaron Agudel came to Mechulem and told him, he says, look, he says, I want you to take over as Rebbe. He says, and if you take over as Rebbe, I will give you a brucha that you will have offene oigen, lechtige oigen, you'll be able to see things. No, that's already not a duva pusher, Mekan Zayn. So he said, Maskim. Becomes Rebbe, a week or two into him becoming Rebbe, walks in a chused with a kvittel. And the chused weint, he says, Rebbe, my father is churev krank. My father is this big asken. My father is the Rosh Kul. My father is the big Gabbat Tzedukah. My father is the Gvir. My father is the person that does it all here. And he's churev krank. He's a young man. The doctor says there's not much that he can do. And Reb Shlomo looks at the kvittel and he says, no, the Eibishter should have rechmunas on him. A few minutes later comes in a younger man, a blittegure man, an univ evian, a mamish, a pauper to the nth degree. And he says, Rebbe, my wife is in labor for 20 hours already. The doctor says if she doesn't give birth to the child, she's dying and the child is dying. And he looks at the kvittel and he sees that this gevir is supposed to be a gilgal into this child. And he says to himself, so what do? Do I put away the gevir, the Rosh Kul, the shiny Yid? Do I give a brucha to this child? So he looks up at the Yid, he says, you know, the Eibishter should have rachmunas, the Eibishter should take care of this. The Yid had no idea it was the Rebbe Zuk, he took it as a brucha. 15-20 minutes later, there's a Yelula, they come telling him, Rebbe, this Yid is nifte gevar, mamish, it's a chorb, meshtut, a heroin, and a half hour later, the singer man comes in, Rebbe's kim na mazel tov, I got a yingele. And then the Shlomo is standing there, he's watching this whole saga play itself out. And, you know, he goes to the Levaya, here they're crying. A few days later, he goes to Shulem Zucha, they drink Melachayim. It's the day before the bris, and the Aviyah Ben comes in and he says, Rebbe, I have to make a bris tomorrow. Wacht nach Zida, I have nothing. I have nothing. So Shlomo says, wait, I have money for you. He takes the wad of cash that he got with the kvittel for that Gewir, was his nifte geworden. And he thinks to himself, this is him. He's paying his own tab. He takes the wad of cash and he gives it to the seed. He says, Mach a simcha. The Yid geht daheim and gestellt a simcha, see the Shloime Beshatoi. And there was a bris, and the Shloime is sitting there, and he's looking at this whole thing. To him, this is like he can't even absorb it. This is interessante Masse. We fast forward a few years. The seed that passed away left over a 7-year-old child, a Yusimol. It's Bar Mitzvah age. And this little Yusimol got Bar Mitzvah. And the Almuna, who was a well-to-do person, everybody knew her, sent out an invitation to the whole town, and everybody comes to see this Bar Mitzvah, a Yusimol. His father did so much chesed for everyone. Everybody knows her. She's a upstanding woman in the community, etc. And the ganze Shtut is dort. And the Rebbe is there, Shloime is sitting there, Shloime Kalina, the Bar Mitzvah Bucher, the uncles, everyone is there. And this father, who had this yingala, is also there. And he has his little yingala there. And he comes into the Bar Mitzvah, and this little yingala just like went bananas. And his father couldn't control him. He was running around, he was jumping, he was yelling, and he runs up to Shloime Kalina, and he sits down between Shloime Kalina and the Bar Mitzvah Bucher. And he says, waiter, bring me a portion. And people are yelling at him, die stinken, die mechitze, trug up von doing it. Shloimel is watching this and thinking to himself, he belongs here. Dus is doch de tate van hem yingel. Dus is toch de tate van hem yingel. If he doesn't belong there, who belongs there? And Shloimel says nothing. And this yingel is sitting there, and he's, like a little yingel being rowdy. I want cola, I don't want this, I don't want the regular Maim Chaim, I want the Coca-Cola, I want ice cubes, I want a glass on a stem. Finally, one uncle comes over to him, picks him up, gives him 2 patches. Do me a favor, you're a little mechitzev, you're a stinker, get out of here, you rascal of aftermaros from a smedish. Shlomo is sitting there, and he's watching the whole spiel. He says the father can't even sit by his child's bar mitzvah. He came home that night, and he went into his Sfurim Shtib, and he started crying bitterly to the Bashefa. He says, Bashefa, please take away the brucha that my Rebbe gave me the ability to see. It's just too much. It's too much to bear. I've been watching this thing for 6-7 years. And whether the Eibush shall listen to him or not, I can't tell you. The rest is not as important. We don't have this brucha to have a Shloime Lekalina's Eugen to see why these things are happening to us. But the only way we can continue is if we are be'emes mischazik and we believe there's more to this picture. This doesn't really make sense. It wasn't supposed to end up this way. This was supposed to be my prodigy child. This was supposed to be my nachis. Favus? Weiß ich nicht. I don't know. And if I know, I wouldn't tell you. So it's irrelevant. But Moshe Rabbeinu told us already, Terchachem and Masachem, troublesome children that are apikorsim, the only way to deal with them is anushim chachumim in avoinim. I just want to leave off with another little topic. I want to shelve all these heilige children. And I don't want to talk about the children. I want to talk about the parents. Anyone ever flew? Anyone ever took a flight? So, before we take off, the stewardess gets up, and the stewardess makes an announcement. In some airlines, they did it in a jig and a dance, what to do. But basically what the stewardess tells you, should the cabin pressure drop, what do you need to do? Oxygen on you first and then your child. It's a murdical limit. It's our natural instinct is first my child. And they're telling us no. Oxygen on you first and then your child. Very simple. First of all, children are more resilient than parents. And they could take it a little longer. But noch mehr. I think the kavuna is, if the parent isn't ruig, if the parent isn't relaxed as we can get, but if the parent isn't relaxed, then we can't deal with the situation. We are so busy catching our tail and trying to take care of the situation, which we have absolutely no control over anyways, and there's not much that we can do, chitza kapitel tilim, and just tippy-toe around them, and then do as we're told, that we don't take care of ourselves. And when we don't take care of ourselves, everyone suffers. The wife suffers, the husband suffers, the children suffer. So the emes is, this side of the mechitza has something that this side doesn't have. At the end of the day, when you go to Shiel 3 times a day, you have 2 things. Number 1, it's a social club. Noch ein Davenen, ein bisschen Abronfen, ein Lachaim, ein bisschen Cake, fahren Davenen, ein Kave, ein Mikvish, ein bisschen Nayes. We do get to our, to a bissele, no, they daven also, and they go to Shirim also. It's not all that. But in addition to the Lachaim and the cake, there's something very therapeutic. When a Yid warft sich dem Talos Harim in Kop and he wraps himself around, he says, Bashefa, there's nothing I can do, I'm totally in your hands. There's something very healing and therapeutic about it. I find that mothers and women don't have this zach. They're busy with the home, and they're busy with the dishes, and with the laundry, and we're mopping up all the mess when we fly out of the house. But the emes is, se wichtig für beide. Se wichtig für beide. You have to find time for yourself, and you have to find time for yourself to put on that oxygen mask first on you. Take it from the Heilige Reb Nachman Breslova, his boide this. Auf an ernste Sache, was is his boide this? His boide this is time out. His boide this doesn't have to mean going into the forest. His boide this can mean just when everybody leaves, you sit down on the recliner, you put music on, you go for a walk, you go for a cup of coffee with somebody. You need time for yourself. Not shopping and not doing household chores. Something that is relaxing and therapeutic. We're so busy with trying to do for our kinder that we forget, wie halt marins. And if you look in Parshas Bereishis, the first question the Eibishter asked, Uda Machave, after they got themselves into the rut, was Ayeku. Wie bist die? You're so mavillable, you're all over the place, you cannot, kannst dich keine zu geben. Beruhig sich. Make a cheshbon nefesh. Where am I up to? Where am I up to with my life? Take time out for yourself. We find it in Shmita. Every 7th year, don't plow the field. Why? You all know why. For what's a Shabbos Kodesh? For the same reason, Chazal zugen betila zikayuma. We have to find time for ourselves. We have to find time to connect with our spouses. It's crucial. It is mamash yesoidis, and then we can deal with our issues. The Eibush will helfen that we should be zoicha bekurev, v'achakach bui benechu ledvir b'seichu. We should be zoicha that we should be able to nemzach du zusammen nechten. If anybody hat mitgehalten the Sida Sedur with a Shulamotche Rabashkin, this is what we're going to do one day. We're going to rent out a Coliseum, Nassau Coliseum, or a stadium, dort in Gaizan, zehnliche Tausend to mention, and we're going to tanzen zum Beshefer, and we're going to sing Ala Nissim, and we're going to sing Hallel Vahidua, and we're going to thank Him, for giving us the koyach to be able to endure what we're enduring, and living up to the challenges that He gave us. Again, this is who Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to, and Moshe Rabbeinu called all of you Anushim, Chachumim, and Avonim. We should be Zoicha Bekurev, Akeden Segai Mashiach, with freiliche Herzen.